Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday. Welcome aboard. That means Dustin Schutte from Saturday Traditions with us, as always. Another great lineup. But Dustin, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I did not, since the Pacers have lost 2 in a row, I decided I would go with Atlanta Braves red instead of Tour de France yellow.
Probably a good choice. A little going with the winner. No problem there. On the program today, of course, looking forward to talking to Chris Denari with the Pacers. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. It is deep. We're deep into high school football playoffs. And Joe Smith. Forgot about Joe. Do you hear that, or is it just me that's hearing that in my ear?
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, all right. I love when I have so many things open on my computer that a commercial will play. It's on.
Oh.
And finally I can find it, especially when Bill Walton starts talking in my ear. It helps me figure out which one it is. But yeah, the Pacers lost last night, but Indiana did not. A big game that we'll talk about, of course, is Indiana knocks off St. John's 76-74. They were up big and probably could have won that game more comfortably. We'll hear from Mike Woodson and the players. And Mike Woodson talked about it's on him to help his team learn to live with those leads, man, because every time they've gotten a big lead, it has evaporated, and they do such a great job on the defensive end and offensive end early, and they let St. John's mainly Sam Pagney, or however you say that dude's name. He was a beast last night. What do you end up with? 30 points, I think.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points in a college game, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a fun game. I mean, it wasn't probably a fun game for Indiana fans down the stretch in terms of your anxiety levels, but in terms of watching the Hoosiers pull through in some of those games that they've let slip away. I know Mike Woodson called it a carbon copy, what they saw in the Eastern Michigan game, but man, how fun was it? I don't know that you saw this in the Eastern Michigan game, but coming through the television screen, I mean, you could feel the energy in Assembly Hall and how great it is. I know we talked about this with football, but to have fans back and to have that place rocking, one of the better venues in college basketball, that was awesome. But I still think this is still a growing process for this team. This is a team that, is a lot of the same players that a year ago we're watching in the past 4 years, really watching these leads kind of slip away, and not playing well down the stretch. You're still kind of seeing some remnants of that. So there's got to be some fixes to it, primarily on the free throws. But at the end of the day, what more could you ask for? You got to win. You want to play better. Absolutely. But when you win, I mean, you got to celebrate it, because especially in the Big Ten and some of these big games that Indiana has coming up, it's going to be tough to rack up the tallies in the W column. So you got to enjoy them while you get them and learn from those experiences.
Yeah, Champagne for St. John's, 32 points. But my God, he took 22 shots.
It worked for him.
Indiana as a team took 58. St. John's as a team took 58. So there's nobody on Indiana's team that's taken nearly 50% of the shots. I mean, that's great, but what happens on the nights where either he's not on or whatever the case may be?
Bad things are going to happen. Can't rely. That's the one thing we talked about with Indiana this year is you hope that that Trace Jackson Davis's numbers would actually go down because that means more players were going to be contributing. They wouldn't have to be so reliant on his game in the post. And I don't know what the numbers are through the first couple games, but this team, I had to wipe my glasses because they were making threes in that game. They were getting out in transition. I mean, they at times in that game last night, they were a really fun team to watch. And the thing that sticks out to you, and so many teams in the Big Ten have done this, is they put such a heavy emphasis on the defensive end. One thing that I noticed, Jim, in this game last night was this is not even really the basketball side of things, but when Trey Galloway got pulled down on that fast, I don't remember if it was a fast break or if he was just on the hoop, but when he got yanked down, all four of his teammates were standing there around him, make sure he was okay, make sure nobody from St. John's was getting close to him or anything like that. I thought that showed a sign of a team that has pretty good chemistry, or at least the chemistry is getting there. And at times last year, I know we talked about this team just didn't look like it was cohesive. It wasn't gelling. This is a team that, even though they've had some struggles early, I think this team is playing together, and I think they like one another, and that is going to bode well moving forward these next couple months.
Five Lefts is making that report there. I see. Where did you get that from? Is that something that's been posted already? I find that hard to believe that's been posted by somebody from Indiana. But where did you get that information? Be curious to know, or not. I don't care about that, but to confirm that, as we say in the media world, to corroborate that, need two corroborating sources to make that a fact. Yes, John.
I can agree. It's just speculation right now, doing my own little research. So there's no way to confirm. There's been no official release by Indiana, so there's no way in knowing what's actually going on. It very well could be a broken wrist, but we can't report that, obviously.
Exactly. That's why I'd love to know where. Is that just the rumor that's going around? Which, again, doesn't mean it's not going to turn out to be accurate, but until we know for certain. And it sucks because that comes on an F2 foul, if that turns out to be the case. And, that's going to cost him 6-8 weeks. You fall back behind. But that comes on an F2 foul.
Yep.
And
here's something that I don't want to. I'm not trying to ruin any kid's basketball career, but and maybe this makes more sense in the NBA. But Kenny Smith has always made the argument that if you are whistled for that kind of penalty and a player gets hurt and has to miss amount of games, that you should have to miss the amount of games that other player has to miss.
I'm there.
And I don't, again, you don't know the intent, so it's really hard to implement that. But it did not look good. When you yank somebody's arm down and pull him down the way, I don't know who it was, but when you yank him down the way it looked on television, didn't look good. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other sort of suspension. I have not caught up on my NCAA basketball rule book, so I'm doubting there is.
I doubt that. Doug asked where we were after the game. Frankly, it was just too damn late. The game didn't get over till 11:30. Mm-hmm. Probably wouldn't have went on till close to midnight. I didn't see the point in doing a post-game show last night, to be honest with you. Knowing that we'd be talking about it all morning. But we'll get back to that. Hopefully there's no more 9:00 home games. Man, those just absolutely
you're going to have them.
Brutal. They're brutal, man. They're brutal. I can't stand them. But I was able to go to the press conference last night, the post-game presser instead, which a lot of times I don't get the opportunity to do, but I think I'm going to start doing that regardless and just starting the show a little bit later. But we'll look forward to that. But we're also going to hear from Woody and what he thought of last night as well. Renata is correct. She said she will have to say that Assembly Hall was rocking. Yes, it was. There, you mentioned it, Dustin. A lot of energy, early season energy. Great to see that.
Yeah,
Indiana gets that win, but Man, they had a big lead. I remember they were up 14 and they had the opportunity. And I'm like, man, they could have gone up 16 right there. That would have, for some reason, it stuck in my mind at the time, that being a difference. But also the free throw line. We're back to talking about that. It wasn't that it was horrible, but bad enough that this game would not have been, in question had they just simply hit a few more free throws. And again, guess who's one of those culprits is Trace Jackson Davis, who goes 4 of 7. Surprisingly, Xavier Johnson, 1 of 3. So, there's 5 free throws right there. Rob Finney, he goes 0 for 2 at the line. And then add on Tamar Bates, who goes 0 for 2 at the line. Simply can't have that, man.
And especially when you're talking about it down the stretch, they missed some key free throws that maybe not put the game on ice, but would have made it a little bit more comfortable there at the end in that all-important 5-point spread. But at the same time,
you had to get that in, didn't you?
At the same time, the thing that's concerning about the free throws, and we're only a few games into the season, right? So it's not 3 games in, can't take much from it. Mike Woodson says that they're working on it, but those
They've been
games
working on it for 5 years.
Okay, but those games, you have to learn how to, because there are teams in the Big Ten that if you don't make your free throws down the stretch, they're going to make you pay for it more so than St. John's did. So it's not just that you're missing the free throws, it's that you're missing them down the stretch when you have to make them. Because in those close games, that's the difference between, an 8-point game with a minute and a half and teams start intentionally fouling. If you make them, you can put the game on ice. You miss them, and the other team can wiggle its way back in and make it a game. So,
and Trace Jackson Davis is the key component there, because you can't have to take your All-American out because you're in a situation where they're going to be fouling and he can't hit a damn free throw like Shaquille O'Neal.
That is a problem.
Seriously, you need you're going to want him in there, but to see Rob Finney and Tamar Bates go 0 for 4, that hurts. Xavier Johnson. So between Xavier Johnson, Rob Finney, and Tamar Bates, you're 1 of 7. That's not acceptable.
Not good. No.
Those are shooters. I mean, those are shooters. Now, on the other side of the deal, Indiana shot 52% last night. They held St. John's to 43. And more importantly, behind the 3-point line, they were, 33%. Yeah, 6 of 18. You're going to take that. That's fine. And you hold, they shot 33%, but they shot 27 threes. They shot almost 10 more than Indiana put up and hit 3 more. So Indiana's got to hit a couple more of those. They had some more wide open looks. Miller Kopp kind of gets off the schneid a little bit. He shot 40%. That percentage needs to be up higher. He was 4 of 10, but he had 12 points. He 2 of 4 from behind the arc. He was 2 of 2 at the free throw line, 2 rebounds. Not doing a lot out there, I'll be honest with you. He's still searching for his role. And Parker Stewart is another one that is just searching for his role, I guess. He's a shooter, but we haven't seen that show up just yet.
They'll find it. They'll find it. The thing that I always think back to is usually how bad Michigan State is in the first month of the season, and then they figure it out. I think that this is a team that's going to get it figured out at some point. Now, I'm not to say that they're going to be, a Final Four team or anything, but I think that this is still early. You're actually playing real competition now. This is a chance for you to establish your role, figure out what you need to improve on before you hit some of these big games and get into conference play, even starting early next month. So maybe it doesn't look great. Maybe some guys are still trying to fit in a little bit, but I think they'll get it figured out. I think there's a lot of encouraging signs, even though you've let a few leads dwindle in the 2 of the first 3 games. I think there's some positives, positive signs to look forward to.
Christian Lander, one of those. He had some impactful minutes last night. He played 6 minutes off the bench. He scored again, had a nice drive to the bucket, got to the hole. I mean, that's got to be great for his confidence. Trace Jackson Davis talked about that. he talked about he was very team oriented in the press conference last night. He talked about the minutes of Geronimo, the impact that Geronimo had. He talked about Christian Lander without even being asked about it. So very team oriented, very captain-esque last night. Both of the guys, Race Thompson, they seemed so much more comfortable, talkative, outgoing at the presser. It's a complete lobotomy for Indiana basketball that has happened. I'm serious. The person that's people feeling better, feeling good now around the program. You can, it's palpable. You can literally see it and feel it, and how they carry themselves, the body language. Before it was like, dude, talk up. What? And now he's just bam, 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 firing things off. It was great. So we got to take a break. We got lots on the docket for you. Matt Taylor's going to join us next. Cal Neddenriep from the Star, Chris Denari, and Joe Smith, all in this big time day, man. We're back with it. Indiana Sports Beat brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant. Make sure what is today? Today's Thursday. So tonight, special edition of the Tom Allen Show there tonight. So it's 7:05 with Fish and Tom Allen. So make sure you head on out to the Southern Stone. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
As usual, a little heads up, Matt Taylor only can do 10 minutes today. Yep. Last week he didn't have to, though. It was a rarity, but he told me just a second ago. So
you got at least 2 8:30, 9 p.m. home games, and I think they have 4 total right now.
What'd you say?
Home and road. Indiana has they'll have at least 2. They have an 8:30 and a 9 p.m. tip-off at home, and I think they have 4 total. I just went through.
Are any of them coming soon again?
I think they're all in Big Ten play.
Okay. Here's Matt Taylor.
Matthew, how are you, sir?
Hello, hello.
Hello, mate. Hello. Welcome back to the NFL cricket.
You sound like what I had last week. It's going around, man.
Yeah, at least it wasn't the COVID. Brett Belema's got it.
Does he really?
Bielema.
Mm-hmm.
It may be Bielema in Illinois, but this is Indiana.
It's Bielema.
Just like, isn't the Nebraska receiver? Isn't it Samurai Toure? Everybody says Samori Toure.
Samori. Now, Samori Toure.
It's Samori, so it's not Samurai.
It's not. It's not samurai. It's not Samurai.
The other one, Mohammed Ibrahim. Which you told me it is Mohammed Ibrahim, right?
It's Ibrahim. Yep.
Okay.
People call him Ibrahim.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was. Mohammed Ibrahim.
Call him the eyebrow.
They've been
the eyebrow.
The
Sio Nafoa Gatatoa.
Yeah,
for
I
Indiana.
said that one.
Oh yeah, I've never.
Tua Tagovailoa.
How do you do this, Matt?
Can you, Matt? Can you imagine if there was a Samoan All-Star football game?
I'll tell you what, though. In all seriousness, I mean, if you just watch the NFL draft every year and you look at some of the pipelines to the league,
10 seconds.
It is becoming way more international. Mm-hmm. Like every year,
we should be.
Every single team has like 2 or 3 whoppers that you really got to know.
This segment is brought to you by Andy
Moore. How about for the Buffalo Bills star Lotulelei?
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Thursday. Lots going on. The magical Matt Taylor joining us now. We were just having a conversation in the office there, and I was wondering, can you imagine if there was a Samoan All-Star Football League? Because they produce a lot of football players, but imagine if there was an All-Star. Can you imagine doing an All-Star game, play-by-play?
It'd be tough. You got to do what you got to do. I was just saying off the air. I mean, if you watch the NFL draft, if you pay attention to the pipelines to the league, it is becoming more of an international game. I mean, every single team has guys that come from all different places of the globe, and they have different nationalities, they have different ethnicities, and the pronunciations are unique. And like I said, I mean, the Colts have a handful of their guys. I mean, Bobby Okereke's of Nigerian accent, the stud middle linebacker for the Colts. Just looking at the Bills roster and their pronunciation, they've got a proven guy in the middle, Star Lotulelei. They've got another great player, F.A. Obata. So it is, you got to do your due diligence, right? I mean, you're paid to know how to pronounce these names. That's part of the job. And so you got to study not only the roster and, the accomplishments of the players, but you have to know, how to pronounce their names when they make a play.
I guess we shouldn't be surprised at the influx of talent from other parts of the world in the NFL, but it's been such an American sport. Whereas basketball, has been taken out for a long time. And you talk about an international game now, the NBA, man, there are teams that have their team are not, from America. So that's one that's a lot easier taken out. But yeah, it's surprising to me to see how the game of football has expanded to places like Nigeria, like you just said, or Australia, New Zealand, of course. A lot of Samoans, but it is growing, and it's just, that's something I never expected with the NFL.
Well, they do a good job of marketing themselves, and they've tried these international series the last couple of years, right? I mean, going to Mexico and obviously the London game that's been going on for the past 6-7 years. They're trying to expand into Germany, and they market themselves so well on social media. And the NFL is a league. It's a entity that never seemingly disappears. I mean, they have a solid, event tent pole event and every month of the calendar, right? It's not just the in-season stuff. It's the off-season with the draft and free agency and off-season workouts and, the Super Bowl and the combine and all of that. So it is a sport that is growing in popularity globally. And, you're seeing more leagues pop up around the globe playing American football. And I think that's a big reason why you're seeing so many people from different countries and ethnicities coming in and, trying to make their mark in the NFL. It's a fun thing.
Matt, the Colts are coming off back-to-back wins here. The Jets, the Jaguars, 5-5, playoff obviously still in sight here.
Playoffs.
You've got Buffalo, you've got Tampa Bay, and I know that there are some tough games down the stretch. You've got some division games still on the schedule, but are these next two games the tone setters for the rest of the season?
Dustin, you read my mind, pal. 100%. Well, I think you absolutely nailed it, my man. I mean, let's go. I mean, this is it. This is 7 games left. You started horribly. You started 0-3, 1-4. The schedule got you. Injuries got you. Drama got you with COVID at the beginning of the season. A rocky start with training camp. Now you're even. Right now I feel like the team has this big weight lifted off their shoulders. Right. Let's get rid of the gorilla off our back. And they're 5-5. You've got the destiny in your own hands, and the perception is, right, nationally, that the Colts aren't good enough. They're not good enough to beat good teams. They're not a good team because they can't beat playoff teams. They're 0 for their last 8 against teams that made the postseason in 2020. Let's go, right? I mean, let's go. These next 2 games against Buffalo and Tampa Bay, these are tone setters. It's a chance to gain some respect around the league, and I think getting victories in these 2 games, or at least splitting one of these 2 games, would be big psychologically for this team down the stretch, because inevitably, if they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to beat good teams. Not only do they have these 2 games coming up, but they got to play the Cardinals, they got to play the Patriots, and they got to play the Raiders. They look like a team that's, kind of that fringe playoff team. So everything has kind of come back to them a little bit, right? I mean, outside of the Titans running away with the division, everything else in the AFC has sort of come back to reality where, the Bengals started hot, but they've lost back-to-back games. The Chargers started hot, but they've, what are they, 5-4 right now? The Browns are 5-5. So you got a lot of teams that are sort of middle of the pack. You got 7 teams, I believe, in the AFC with at least 5 wins right now. So everything's right there. You got to start beating good teams. It's kind of, I hate this phrase, but it's time to kind of put up or shut up. And it's a great opportunity right now for the Colts to kind of gain some respect around the NFL and prove that they are good enough to beat these teams. And quite frankly, they should have a couple of wins this year against quality competition, like the Titans, right? When you're up 14-0 against the Ravens, when you're up 19-0 in the fourth quarter, unable to kind of close it out. So getting off the fast starts has not been a problem for the Colts, i.e. up 17-0 against the Jaguars on Sunday. You're up 42-10 against the Jets, and then they go on that run to close out that game 20-3 at one point. So getting off to a fast start has not been a problem. It's finishing strong for the Colts. That's what they're trying to figure out.
So that leads into my next question. And first of all, you got me fired up. Like I'm ready to run through a brick wall now, and they don't even play for a couple days here. So I'm fired up now. You did your job there.
That's what I'm doing.
I guess my next question is, and this really isn't maybe necessarily on the football side, but what you just said kind of leads me into that next question. To you, I've seen the Colts play well on both sides of the ball, different games throughout this season. Like to me, when you look at how they've lost some of these close games, you mentioned the Rams, you mentioned the Ravens, some of these other games, the Titans. Is this all about mentality, these next 2 games? Like when they get in those tight situations, making enough plays, like I think that they have the talent to do it. I think they have the ability to do it. It's just, is that weighing on the back of their mind? Like we've come close, here we go again type of thing?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think it is psychological. I think getting a win would really bode well for this team psychologically, knowing that we're good. I mean, if you look at the roster top to bottom, I mean, it is a good roster. I know they've had their injuries, and I know some guys are on IR, like Paris Campbell and Julian Blackmon in the back end at safety. But if you just look at them on paper, it is a playoff worthy team. I think it is a team on paper that is much better than 5-5. But the old Bill Parcells line, right? I mean, you are what your record says you are, and the Colts are right there. I mean, 5 up, 5 down, right in the middle. So it is one of those things where they have to mentality-wise change how they play in the second half. It is, no plays let down, right? I mean, you can't take any plays off. I mean, you saw that against the Jaguars. Colts are up 17-0. I mean, it appears that, they got a block punt for a touchdown, and you had the feeling like, okay, the Colts are going to win 100-0 today. And then all of a sudden, Jamal Agnew takes an end around, a sweep to the left side on a jet sweep, and he turns it into a 66-yard score. One play just like that changes the entire narrative of the game, like the entire feel of the game. That's what the Colts have to avoid these letdowns. And it was personified beautifully last year in that playoff game, right? I mean, the Colts had a chance to go up 17-7 with about 2 minutes to go in the second quarter on the road. I know it's, no fans last year due to the COVID situation, but on the road against the number 2 seed in the AFC. And then on you have first and goal, you don't get it in. You end up going forward on fourth down and a questionable decision. You don't make it. So it's kind of a deflating turn of events there. And then right before the half, the Bills go on a 96-yard drive. They get a touchdown right before the half. And it's just like one thing. It's right. It's one thing kind of changes the game and it kind of deflates the Colts. That's why they have to kind of put their foot down and really kind of choke these teams off when they have a chance to kind of finish these games off. And it doesn't matter if it's in the fourth quarter and the second quarter. When you have a chance to really kind of put teams away, that's where the Colts have come up short. That's what they're striving for, is going from a good team that can compete with these teams to a great team that can finish these teams off.
Well, they have the opportunity this Sunday as they'll have to travel and play outside up in New York against the Bills. It's a tough environment, but you're going to have those. The defense has been looking incredible for I think they're peaking right now, Matt, on the defensive side.
Well, it's going to be a great challenge on both sides of the ball. I mean, like you said, the Bills are number 2 in the NFL in scoring. Josh Allen, one of the premier quarterbacks in the league. Stephon Diggs, one of the best playmaking wide receivers in the league. They've got Cole Beasley. They got a really good offensive line. They got a pretty good running game and Devin Singletary. And then defensively, they don't have they don't have guys that are going to like stand out to you in terms of like defensive ends that have 12 sacks or guys in the back end that have 8-9 interceptions. But what they do is they play the scheme very good collectively. They got a bunch of guys that buy into the system, that play the scheme very well. So statistically speaking, they're elite, right? I mean, they're number one in so many different categories defensively, including yards allowed per game, points per game, third down, red zone. Those are all the things that really matter in this league. Completion percentage, passer rating against. So it's going to be a really good challenge for the Colts. I think offensively, they've proven in these last 5 weeks they can move the ball and score on just about anybody. But it's, can you make enough plays in crunch time? Defensively, can you get stops? And can you make, plays in the pivotal moments, whether that's at the end of the first half or in the fourth quarter?
Yep, and we'll see. Hopefully they can get that done this week and keep those playoff hopes alive as they travel up to Buffalo. They will shuffle off to Buffalo. Enjoy your trip, Matt.
Will do. Looking forward to it, my guys. I appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts, taking a few minutes to join us here on Indiana Sports Beat as the Colts prepare to go to Buffalo. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
The baseball season.
Thank you. Oh, he's gone already. Well, I got confused by the logo.
Oh, yeah. Well, because he never puts anything on his. So
I know. No, I know. Someone said, did you see this?
What?
Dude,
That's not a report. That's not a report.
We don't get, I understand that. You don't get news from Facebook, though.
Well, I wasn't telling you. I was telling him. That's not a report.
I'm talking not to you, just in general. People, you cannot get your news from Facebook.
To the comment to him, not to you. We did break a tad early, so you'll probably be without Kyle Neddenriep for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Once he checks in, I'm checking out.
Goodbye.
I'm just going to turn my camera, hide my camera. I'll still be in here. Hide my camera and do the mute.
He'll take you out. Don't worry.
Okay.
That's true. I can just remove you.
Oh, yeah, well, then, yeah, just remove me. That way I don't sound like Kermit the Frog on the typewriter.
Hey, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here. Dustin Schutte.
Yeah. I don't think I can do Kermit.
That's a pretty good impression.
I can do Elmo.
Do Miss Piggy?
No.
Greetings.
I don't doubt you, man. I don't doubt it, but don't get
you don't want a
news from
repeat of
Facebook.
what happened back in the spring.
What was that?
The Thad Matta.
Well, that was accurate.
Well, I'm not saying, but I'm saying this could be accurate too. I'm just saying you don't want to have that experience again.
Well, that was a different type of situation.
I'm aware. I'm just saying.
That was accurate information that they did not want out. And it was worded in a way that allowed them to deny it. Is all. And then, where she didn't say that on her Facebook page because I'm looking at it. No, I'm just asking. I'm just trying to get.
Mom said it on Facebook. Woo!
But not on her own page.
See, this is what is incredible. I mean, when you have a program like Indiana basketball, Alabama football, these people
football.
they figure stuff out.
10 seconds.
More times than not.
Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. If you're down the Sellersburg area, go see Dr. J for that championship smile. Look at Dustin. He'll stop through there on his way back.
Oh, well, championship smile.
Did you get a chance to watch the entire Indiana game last night?
The IU basketball game? Yeah. I was also working, so I was going back and forth. But
the defense,
most of it.
The defense was again pretty good.
Yeah.
People we were wondering what after those first couple of games, the competition level was not what it could be. St. John's is no joke. Now, Champaign is going to be – St. John's is going to have to find some other answers. Of course, they had two other guys in double figures, but you can't have a guy going off for 32 every night because that's just not going to work. Somebody's going to eventually shut him down. He put up 22 shots. You had two guys. They had two guys that put up 33 of their 58 shots.
That's pretty dependent on two guys right there. Champagne.
Tamar Bates, Trace Jackson Davis, and Miller Kopp combined to put up one less shot than that. That includes Trace Jackson Davis in that group. That's two starters.
Yeah.
And Tamar Bates, who played 27 minutes. So he played more minutes than 1, 2, 3. He played more minutes than three of the starters. So, and people talk about Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart. Their production levels off and they're starting. You can't have. I don't think you're going to have your five best on the floor to start the game, because when you bring a second wave in, you don't want that to be second tier. You want it to be a second wave. So you want some equality there. You don't agree with that? I want my second wave to be as strong as it can possibly be. And
yeah, but doesn't, you're not talking about wholesale changes. Like guys don't
I'm not talking about making any changes.
No. I'm saying it's not like you have a wholesale change where the starting five is then replaced by a second five. You rotate those guys in. To me, it's more about the rotation than anything else. And it's always like, I remember certain teams have played, they might start one guy and then end the game with another guy. I don't have a problem. I don't look too much into the starting lineup, especially when you have a deep roster, because it's more about the rotation and it's more about who's playing at the end of the game. But I don't necessarily agree with the fact that you have to have some of your best players on the bench to start the game. I just think it's about finding that perfect rotation and what guys play well together.
And some guys play better off the bench.
That's
for
true.
Whatever reason.
They watch the game develop through through the first 4 or 5 minutes, and they go in and see what's happening, what they need to be doing, what tendencies you might see throughout a game. So some players, they enjoy coming off the bench. They excel at it. So, that's why there's some guys in the NBA who they'll win 6th man of the year. They get put into a starting rotation and they look like they're confused. You don't see that nearly as much in college basketball, but it is a thing.
Indiana with 4 players in double figures last night. One of those again, though, Race Thompson, 15 points, 5 rebounds. He's a workhorse, man. 6 of 9 shooting. He got to the free throw line 3 times. He hit all 3 free throws. He had 2 assists. So that's, again, the dude, I just love his game so far this year. He's just been
glue guy.
He's what I call him, a lunchbox packing blue collar baller.
I like that. That's a good phrase.
What he is. Absolutely. Kyle Neddenriep joining us now. Hey, Kyle, how are you, sir?
Hey, good, Jim. How are you?
Oh, good. I know it's a busy time for you. We were talking basketball because Indiana, of course, played the St. John's last night, but it's a busy time for you because you've got the high school football playoffs going on, and we are deep into the good time as some big games coming up this week in this is the semi-state round.
Yeah, semi-state round, one week from Lucas Oil, so should be a good week of football and getting a little chilly out there. So, but yeah, should be fun.
They've been kind of lucky with the weather. It hasn't gotten cold up until now, and I don't think it's going to be terribly cold, but they've kind of been a little lucky with the weather, I think.
Well, I was freezing on Friday. I don't know about anybody else. But,
well, you weren't doing anything but standing on the sidelines or sitting up in the press box.
That was the first time. Really, it was pretty cold. It was flurrying a little bit, but not a whole lot. But it was the wind was what made it pretty chilly. But I think it'll probably be about the same on Friday, and then of course the state finals. Everything's inside, so that's our last week outside. It's time for basketball. Time to go inside.
I hear that. A couple of big games on tap in 6A. You've got an undefeated Maryville squad coming in from the region to take on 11-1 Westfield. So that's a matchup with a lot of eyes on that.
Yeah, that is a probably one of the more anticipated games of the week, I would say. With Maryville hasn't played anybody from around here, but you hear a lot of talk about how good they are. They played Westfield last year in the semi-state round. They had to come down here and play, and it was a close game in the third quarter. They kind of let it get away from them and lost 41-23. I think it'll be a closer game this year. They have a really good running back, Laverion Logan, who's a Division I player. Their quarterback, Nelson, he's probably not a Division I player, but he's really good. And, so a lot of the same guys they have back from that team last year, but so does Westfield. A lot of their same players from that team that won the semi-state last year and made it to Lucas Oil. But I think this potentially, and you hear a lot of people from Maryville saying, how good this team is. So curious to see how they stack up against Westfield. And, like I said, no common opponents. So it's kind of hard to tell, to gauge. And that kind of makes it fun sometimes. You don't really know, what to expect exactly. But they did play last year, like I said. But, this is a different season. And I do think it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be one of the best games of the night.
Then one that's kind of the opposite, one of familiarity, is Ben Davis at 7-5, taking on the juggernaut 12-0 Center Grove team.
Yeah, Ben Davis, I covered them last week, and they just hammered Brownsburg. It was 32-0 at one point, and they won 32-14. So, and Center Grove struggled just a little bit. They needed two special team scores to beat Lawrence North 29-19. And, that was a game where, Lawrence North battled them for 4 quarters, which I think a lot of people probably were surprised by that. Lawrence North was mercy ruled against them last time they played and didn't play very well. So they came into this game and they were ready to go. Veteran defense played really well. They actually out-yarded Center Grove in that game and kept it close. So I think Ben Davis will go into this game with some confidence. They played Center Grove early in the year and lost 45-21, but it was 24-21 pretty late in the third quarter. And the way Ben Davis threw the ball on Friday against Brownsburg and moved the ball, they have 4 really good receivers, 2 senior quarterbacks they rotate in the game. So this might be the type of team, I think that could give Center Grove some trouble. I think in a 4-quarter battle, Center Grove is going to win more, 99% of the time. But I do think this potentially could be a really close game. I think Ben Davis will probably hit a couple big plays at least. The question I have will be, can they stop Center Grove, and can they get their defense off the field, which they did really well against Brownsburg. They completely dominated that game on both sides of the ball. So they do have the athletes, they have the familiarity. Obviously, they've been to this round the last 2 years and lost to Center Grove, so they've been here. And talking to Jason Simmons, the Ben Davis coach, after the game, they said, he was telling his team, like, hey, we're ready for this next step. They might be 7-5, but, they're a program that plays for the tournament. They don't, not to say they don't care about the regular season, but you can definitely see the switch go off, when they're playing in these bigger games. Good senior class. They're sort of underrated, I think. And I do think they'll give Center Grove a good battle on Friday.
Another game kind of reminiscent of the minute ago. You talked about teams that probably don't play very often. 8-5 Zionsville team up at Michigan City, 9-3. That's another, looks like a team that don't really cross paths very often.
No, they don't. Michigan City came down here in 2017 and 18. They didn't play Zionsville, but they played New Pal one year, and escapes me who else they played. They played in another semi-state game and lost. But again, this is kind of similar to the Merrillville game. Michigan City has a lot of really good athletes, and Zionsville is a team that basically plays all 6A teams throughout the year in their conference. So they're kind of geared up for for the tournament. And they were missing their running back last week, Colin Price, and they had Gage Bankert come in and run 40 times for 240 yards. So no problem there last week when they played Bishop Dwenger out of Fort Wayne. But I think, interesting game because they don't have similar opponents. Michigan City, big school. They also play a lot of 6A programs. So, I think they'll be, they'll have the type of athletes that they can, hang with Zionsville. Zionsville is going to want to run the ball as much as they can. So I did pick Zionsville, but again, I think similar to Westfield and Merrillville, I think this should be one of the better games of the night.
There's another one. The team from the South, the New Albany Bulldogs, are traveling up to take on Cathedral, a team that we've talked about all year as being one of the strongest teams in the state. New Albany manages to get there. They beat Bloomington South last week at home. So this is a matchup not expected to be a good one, but it could be a little dark horse there.
It's a David versus Goliath, I would say. I know Simmons for New Albany. He's a really dynamic quarterback, and can run and throw, and really credit to them for beating Bloomington South. They beat him pretty easily last week, really, and kind of opened some eyes. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but Cathedral just this is really going to be hard, I think, for New Albany. They're not used to being in this position. It's probably one of the most as far as like newcomer versus old guard, I mean, it's about as much as any. New Albany obviously hasn't been ever to this point, so at least in football, we're used to seeing them in basketball make hay in the tournament, but not football. So Cathedral is just they're a machine right now. I'll be curious to see how this game goes, but I just have a hard time. No matter how dynamic New Albany is offensively, Cathedral's already seen just about every type of team you can see along the way. And, they played Decatur Central a couple of weeks ago, and it was close at halftime. And then, Cathedral kind of put the wood to them in the second half a little bit. Didn't score a whole lot last week. They beat New Pal 23-7, but every team they play seems like they has a hard time scoring on Cathedral. So I would consider this to be a pretty big upset. If New Albany can pull this off, it might be one of the bigger upsets of the entire tournament. But stranger things have happened, and that's every team who makes it to this point is here for a reason.
Some teams down in the southwest of the state. Mount Vernon is at Evansville Memorial.
Yeah, Mount Vernon is riding high. They beat Roncalli last week, and all year I kind of expected Roncalli to play East Central next week, and that to be the big 4A game. East Central lost to Memorial, and they led that game 14-0, but turned it over 5 times, and then Evansville Memorial came back and beat them. Mount Vernon 2 years ago, they went down and played Evansville Memorial in the same round, and they got smashed pretty good. So, but a lot of the same playmakers on this team, including their quarterback, Sloonaker, he started in that game. And Keegan LaBelle, their linebacker, he also was a big part of that team. So I know they're geared up and they know what's ahead of them, a long drive and, a tough opponent. Memorial's used to being in the spot, and they're probably the favorite, I would say. But they do have a lot. They're not exactly the same team as they were 2 years ago. They have a lot of different players right now playing for them, but it's sort of they're sort of that machine too that just keeps rolling along. But if Mount Vernon can beat Roncalli, I got to say, I think they're capable of winning this game as well. But we'll see. It's different game, different opponent, and obviously different venue where you have to go on the road and make that long drive down to Evansville.
Gibson Southern at Tri-West, man, they've got a great quarterback in Purdue commitment, Brady Allen. He's thrown 76% of his passes, 3,400 yards 50 touchdowns. That sounds like it's pretty good, Kyle.
Yeah. I'm going to get a chance to cover that game. They've actually played on Saturday, so they're coming up here to Liston to play Tri-West. So I'm going to get a chance to see Brady Allen in person. I'd seen him a couple years ago in the summer, but haven't been able to cover a game. Only one game on Friday nights, and normally I'm around here, so that'll be fun to see what he looks like in person. And Gibson Southern, Nick Hart's their coach. John Hart's his father coaches at Brownsburg, was coach at Warren for a long time, and various other places down in Evansville as well. So he has a really good program there, and they're a program that's kind of been knocking on this door, trying to get through for a long time. And they got a really good opponent to play in Tri-West, who, last year Danville made it in 3A, and this year Tri-West knocked them off in the sectional, and now they're going to have a chance to go if they can win this game. But really tough opponent. I'd say Gibson Southern's probably as tested as any 3A team, and they always come out of that area of the state where it's really hard. Heritage Hills and Southridge are always really good football programs down that way. So it'll be a tough assignment for Tri-West, but again, think that should be a really interesting game.
Another game where teams are familiar with each other, but not really, because they've only played in the tournament twice. Mater Dei from Evansville Mater Dei, and Cecina. They're playing that game at Beech Grove.
Yeah, Cecina. That's basically a home game for them. They play a lot of games over there at Beech Grove, but that's Evansville Mater Dei again. Talk about Memorial. Seems like they're always playing in this round, and Mater Dei kind of the same way. They're always seems like playing deep in the tournament. Always a good passing team, and I know they have a quarterback again this year who's thrown for quite a few yards. Cecina's a really kind of unusual team. They're all in this day and age, you're so offensive minded, especially teams at this point in the tournament. But they have 6 shutouts this year, and that's a school record for them. Which that's just a different kind of football, than we're kind of used to seeing these days. But so they're really built defense, running game, and Ott Hurl, their longtime coach, knows how to get it done, and their team. I think even looking to next year, they could be almost just as good next year. A lot of juniors on this team, so they're kind of getting hot at the right time, and playing a great conference around here at the in the Indiana Crossroads Conference. So they're a really good small school program, and again, I think that'll be one of the better games of the night.
Mr. Football, man, you talk about some great candidates this year. Brady Allen and Taven Jackson. There's no way that Brady Allen beats Taven Jackson because he's down in the Southwest, so he is not going to get the love from the core media there in the middle of the state, and Taven's got such a big name back-to-back. If they win again, what is that, back-to-back state titles, undefeated at least, at the highest 6A level, and I understand that, but I don't know. How do they compare statistically?
Well, Allen's got better numbers just because they throw the ball a lot more, So Jackson's numbers, he's efficient, but just doesn't have the overall, and a lot of their games are running clock games, especially, the last couple of years, really even, just because they're always winning by so much. They don't throw a ton in the second half of those games. So, overall, I would say Allen, and I think I do think Brady, especially if they can win on Saturday and play in the state championship game, then he gets to play on that stage at Lucas Oil, just like Jackson probably will, and did the last 2 years. This will be his third year if they win on Friday playing in the state championship game. And he's played well in those situations. So, it'll be, I don't know if it's just even those two. I think Caden Curry from Center Grove, and you wonder if, his presence, could take away from Jackson. And it certainly, could be the case. He's as dominant as anybody. He just doesn't have he's a defensive guy, so it's pretty rare that you see a defensive guy even in the mix for it. But, so there's some other candidates there. But, yeah, I really, on the short list, I think Allen is definitely a real factor. And, his overall numbers. And now, they haven't won at a high level as far as, like, making it to state. But, this is their chance to do that. And if he does that as a senior, I think that's obviously a feather in his cap. They won a really tough game last week against Lawrenceburg. And kind of had to come back at the end to win that game. But I think he's definitely a factor in the race.
It would definitely be nice to see just to see the competition. But I saw a cool picture between with Taven Jackson and Peyton Manning not too long ago. He was on a visit down to Tennessee, I guess, and Peyton was there. So always cool to be able to hang out with people like that. He should have talked him into having him on the Monday night show.
Yeah, he'd be good at that. I see. Now that I see Trace Jackson Davis at some of the Center Grove games this season. I'm like, oh, there's a Taven's brother. It used to be the other way around. You know, he'd always, oh, that's Trace's brother. Now I say, oh, there's Taven's brothers here. So,
oh, that's funny. Yeah, if he goes down and makes a name for himself at Tennessee. Well, man, have fun, and I hope you don't have to travel too much this weekend.
No, I'll be pretty close around here, and then of course a lot of our basketball stuff is rolling out this week and next week too. So certainly a busy time, but appreciate you having me on.
When's the basketball? Is the basketball coming out this weekend or the next couple of days?
Our super team just came out this morning. That's Central Indiana, top 15 players in the area. Cool photos and videos if people want to check that out of all 15 guys, and then. We had our player rankings and stuff like that have already come out, but a lot of our stuff still is to come. Our capsules of every team and players to watch in the state and all that types of things will be coming here in rolling out over the next few days.
Yep, there it is. I hadn't gotten to that yet, but that'll give us something to talk about next week. Well, plus football. We have the finals there, so we got plenty to talk about. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Become a subscriber. I am. So thank Kyle. Appreciate you, brother.
No problem. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, we got lots more coming up. We got basketball to get back to talking about for Indiana, for the Big Ten, just college basketball in general. We'll hold off on the high school basketball since there's nothing going on there. But we've got Chris Denari joining us later as well. Talk about the Pacers. Plenty. Indiana Sports Beat. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market for
Hey, Dustin, you'll have to unmute yourself because you muted. If you mute yourself, I can't unmute you. That's how that works.
All right, it's unmuted.
Oh, you're good.
All right, I got 4 of my 5 sections done.
Man, that's efficient working for about 15 minutes.
I had 2.5 of them done. Basically 3 of them done coming in. So I need
this
to
is for your
column
for your such shooting from the hip.
Yep.
Pew pew.
All right, I'm going to close out of it, and I'm going to send out an email because he's going to need it. Oh, man. We're going...
What's everybody got against Stephen Bardo? Do you think he's a good TV commentator, Jim? Maybe you don't have to respond. I guess,
I'm sitting there thinking how I'm going to respond. I personally like him. I think that, for one, sometimes I don't know, man. Sometimes people have different takes because that's how they see it. Sometimes they have different takes because they want to stir the pot. I
don't see that with him, though. But I feel like a lot of people were pissed about.
I'm not saying
the way he did the game last night
because he wasn't pro Indiana.
Well, he wasn't pro St. John's either, was he? I mean, I didn't really.
It doesn't matter. He wasn't pro Indiana.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Who are you talking
because
about?
He was being objective. People were mad about it. Yeah.
People don't want objectivity.
Stephen Bardo?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Kentucky fans, Kansas fans, Duke fans, Indiana fans, they don't want partiality. They want you to be on. I'm not kidding. That's part of the reason I truly believe. Well, do you think we wouldn't have a much larger audience if I sat around kissing Indiana's ass every day? I'm not kidding. I'm talking about with the people. That's
Hey, we
what
got
they
10
want.
seconds.
They don't want to hear the truth. A lot of them don't want to hear the truth. We have a smarter audience than that.
Yeah.
Sizemore gets you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Thursday. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me, as he always is, bringing in just an all-around. Oh, got Chris. I forgot it's 10 o'clock. Kristen, all right, jumping in. I just get ready. Dustin did not want to go with the yellow today, Chris.
Yeah.
He said he just didn't feel right being up in the front of the pack with the back-to-back losses, so he had to drop back a little bit.
I didn't feel like I'm wearing black.
We both backed out.
Well, he's not. At least he's not going to the funeral parlor. He's not throwing on the towel in now. Just kidding.
Well, I just want to say that for 6 of the 8 quarters, I felt okay. But 26 points combined in the last 2 fourth quarters for the Pacers and the Knicks and Detroit, that to me was quite concerning, Chris.
Yeah. The fourth quarter, I don't really it's hard to say what you saw on Monday. And I think the Knicks are a good team. And you go 2 for 20 and 1 for 13 from 3. But the problem is last night against a very young, scrappy Detroit team. I mean, they start 3 20-year-olds. I mean, they start 3 guys that, could easily be, freshmen and sophomores, I guess sophomores in college. And then you go 6 for 20 and I think it was 2 for 13 from 3-point range. So in the last 2 games, you've gone 8 for 40 and 3 for 26, and you've lost 2 games by 8. Most times you do that, you're probably blown out. But yeah, it's been crazy to watch the offense just bog down. You're not going to win games scoring 89 and 84 in the NBA. And you're probably not going to win games when you give up 125 or 130. So there's got to be a happy medium. And I thought the Pacers had reached that. Last Thursday, we talked after they had sort of given one away in Denver. And then that night, they probably played their best game of the year in beating a really good Utah team in Salt Lake City. And then they come home, and even though Philadelphia doesn't have Joel Embiid, you still play well and you get a win. And you're going out on the road for 3 in the Eastern Conference that you feel pretty good about. And so that's how this league can change quickly. And last night, Rick Carlisle said, hey, you just got to play harder. You got to play harder against a young team that is not playing for a record, right? I mean, Detroit knows that they're in a rebuilding situation, so they're just going out and playing. Missing shots, doing those things. It really doesn't matter in the end game. They're just trying to get better. And if you don't match that, then you're going to have a problem, and that's what the Pacers did last night.
And to me, there were times in that game, particularly last night, I don't think this was much of an issue in the New York game. I felt like the energy was there in Madison Square Garden. Of course, with the fans back in one of the most iconic, it's hard not to get ready to go for that game. But last night, there were stretches. I remember early in the third quarter, Rick Carlisle called a timeout. Karis LeVert comes out, scores like 12 straight points. The Pacers had a lead, and you thought, okay, maybe this is the spark that they needed. And then Detroit makes it. It was really a game of runs last night. But I like to look at the season kind of at a week-to-week basis. And obviously the biggest thing this week has been Chris Duarte out. And I think we're figuring out how much of an offensive weapon and how offensively that chemistry seems to work a little bit better when he's on the floor.
Yeah, it just seems like, you add another playmaker, you add another shooter, a guy that can get his own basket, and you take that away from the Pacers because now you put in, and again, Justin Holiday has had, a good year. He's better coming off the bench, but then you add in players that have to have help. When you have somebody like Duarte who can create his own, he's a good catch and shoot guy too. it really affects your offense. And I mean, look at it. They've had probably their 2 worst 3-point shooting games of the year with him on the sideline. He's about a 40% 3-point shooter, and he's the only Pacer that made a 3-pointer in each of the games that he's played. Now, he's missed the last 2, but in all 14 games he's played, he's made a 3. He's the only Pacer to do that. So I think, it could be coincidental, but at the same point, you definitely miss somebody like Chris Duarte, and we'll see if he'll be available in Charlotte tomorrow.
And this is go ahead. I was just going to say this is a Charlotte team that the Pacers played and really dominated for what was basically 3 quarters in the season opener, just basically a month ago. What do we know? I mean, Charlotte's the team playing really good right now. They're 9-7. What do we see from the Hornets heading into this matchup, and what do the Pacers have to do other than score more points? I mean, not to detract too much here, but the defense has been played well. You hold teams to under 100 points, you're going to win a lot of basketball games in this league. So what do the Pacers need to do to beat the Hornets that is more than just shot making?
Well, I think the one thing that you have to play with more force on the offensive end. I think if you look at these last 2 fourth quarters, it's sort of a football term. They've been going a lot east to west. They've not been able to get downhill north south. And so with that, I think they've settled for 3-point shots. And when you're not in rhythm shooting those 3-point shots, you're deep in the shot clock. Those are difficult shots to make. I mean, that's why they're 3 for 26 in the fourth quarter in the last 2 games. So I think they have to do a better job of also player movement. I would have to say that, just rewatching the fourth quarters, especially in these last 2 games, they've dribbled the ball way too much. I mean, this is a team that is much better, as most teams are, but particularly this team is much better when the ball is moving on the pass. We've talked about having guys that can get your own shot, Brogdon, LeVert, and Duarte, but at the same time, you can't rely on that all the time. So that ball needs to move a lot better. I think when you're dribbling, it takes less pressure off the defense because they're not having to move as much either. So I think that's got to be better. It's one of those situations I've always felt in my 16 years with a long season. When your team is winning, you feel like they can't lose.
Yeah.
And when your team is losing, you're wondering if they can win. And it just takes one game to get out of it. And I think that's the one beauty about an NBA season with 82 games. You always have the next game waiting for you. It's not like in college where you're only playing about 30 games, 35 maybe, and you might have a week between games. So either you have to sit on a bad loss or you have to sit on a good win when you wish that you could play again because you want to build that momentum. In the NBA, you don't have to worry about that because you always have a game coming up, and the Pacers have one on Friday, and then they have one on Saturday, and then they have one on Monday, and then they have one on Wednesday. So you have ample opportunity to sort of flush that bad taste out of your mouth.
I know that in an NBA game, you're not going to have every possession is not going to look like this. But the thing that was at times frustrating to me was in the fourth quarter, you talked about standing around, and this is why I wanted to touch on this question, is there was a play where Domantas Sabonis caught an entry pass. Justin Holiday cuts in from the far corner of the three-point line and gets an uncontested layup. It was one of the best plays I think I've seen of the season the Pacers have run, just with everything chemistry-wise. You're not going to get that on every possession, but what is the reason for some of this too much dribbling and not standing? Is it chemistry? Is it not getting the right play called, or is it just guys not knowing where they need to be on the floor?
Well, I do think let's go back and, some people would view it as an excuse, but I would say it's valid. If you look at inserting Karis LeVert into this group, who's a guy that likes to have the ball. Mm-hmm. Last night was only the third or fourth time this year that he and Brogdon have played together. And they only played together 20 of the 60 games last year. And so I always call it the core four. If you look right now, take TJ Warren out because he's not been available, but LeVert, Brogdon, Sabonis, and Turner. Last night in the first 16 games is the fourth time that they've all played together at the same time. And it only happened like 11 times last year. So I do think there is still trying to get used to each other. And to your point, Dustin, I think at times the ball probably needs to be in Sabonis's hands a little bit more because he is a pretty good decision maker in the half court. Just like you said, he and Doug McDermott had great chemistry together. And I think other players are learning that with him, that if you move, he will find you. So, maybe the Pacers have to look at, on the offensive end, less dribbling by other people. And maybe the ball is in the hands of Sabonis, who even though he had a number of turnovers last night, I still think he's a good decision maker and can find players in the half court. So that's something I think Rick Carlisle and his staff are still working through. And hopefully it gets better as the season progresses.
If you move, you will be found.
Yes.
It's a very poetic, very poetic.
Well, Jim, and that's the point. A lot of people, when they talk about ball movement, which is important, but as you just said, it's people movement, right? If you move as a player, oftentimes, as you said, the ball will find you.
Well, you create things. Every movement creates, every action creates a reaction, and whether it's positive or negative, but sometimes you have to be the cause of that action. And standing around is not causing much action.
No, and the easiest thing to play defense, the easiest thing as a defender is to guard somebody who's not moving, who's just standing. because then you don't have to do, you don't have to exert a lot of energy or a lot of force. So you're absolutely right. It puts a lot of pressure on the defense, not only when the ball moves, but when people move. And I think the Pacers, if you isolate the last two fourth quarters, the lack of movement on both the ball and people has been a big reason why they've only scored 26 points. I mean, 26 points in 24 minutes. I mean, that's just amazing to me.
I mean, and you look at the best spot up shooters are the guys. Doug McDermott moved without the ball really well. Steph Curry can move without the ball really well. I think Chris Duarte moves without the ball really. I mean, he's still kind of growing into that, but when he's able to, he can knock down shots when he moves without the ball. So I would like to see more of that, but I guess I probably am looking at it from strictly the fourth quarter perspective because the last two have been so frustrating. Yeah. I do think there are positives, especially on the defensive end. And like I said, there were sparks of offense. It's just when the pressure was turned up, the Pacers really haven't had a go-to guy in these last two games, and that's pretty concerning.
No, I think you're right. I think when the pressure got turned up in New York, the Pacers didn't do a good job of handling it. And the pressure last night from Detroit, Cade Cunningham, the Killian Hayes, the young backcourt put a lot of pressure on him. And then what was frustrating was, and oftentimes this happens, and he's a great guy. I mean, I couldn't be happier for him other than the fact he did it against the Pacers last night, and that's Corey Joseph. Corey played for the Pacers for 2 years, just one of the most classy guys you'll ever be around, just a wonderful guy. He played very poorly on Monday against one of his former teams, Sacramento. And he comes out last night and scores a season high, I think 18 points and hit big shots. And so, players, and hopefully the Pacers are this way moving forward. Players have short memories. And if they play poorly, they know that they've got to step it up the next game. And that's exactly what Corey Joseph did last night. I thought the bench for Detroit was huge. He and Frank Jackson hit some big shots. So, it was disappointing. It was disappointing to see the same sort of repeat performance in the fourth quarter. When they took that lead at 6, as much as they had struggled throughout the game with this young Detroit team, Detroit had to call the timeout. And I thought, okay, the Pacers have they hit that wall and now they're climbing over the wall. Well, Detroit comes out of the timeout, hits a shot, and then it was the same issue that we saw on Monday. So, just a very frustrating night, and hopefully it'll change moving forward.
Yeah, the Pacers have one more game on the road before they come back home to host the Bulls. So a meeting with the Pacers tomorrow night, like you said, it's like Lay's potato chips. They just keep making more, baby. More games.
And if you're a broadcaster, you love it because that's what you're paid to do, and you're just in constant prep mode and broadcast mode, and We've done 16. We've got 65 more. So looking forward to it.
The countdown has begun. Chris Denari from Indiana Papers. We appreciate you, brother. Appreciate. How's everything going with you? How's the gardening? Have you got everything put away for the year?
My lawn care service left me a message that they need to come out tomorrow for the November treatment, where they get you ready for the winter. And I thought, well, I may have to go out today and either rake leaves or mow, because if they put the fertilizer or whatever they're putting down, it's going to be on a bed of leaves. So I may have some work to do here as I get off the air here.
Lawn care services. When I was a kid, I was a lawn care service. I remember $2, and I had a neighbor that I got $2.50 for cutting that lawn. I remember I had another one that I had to use a rope to let the mower go down the hill because it was such a steep hill.
Well, they're not the mower.
I'm the mower.
I'm the mower. They're just the ones that treat it, because I know.
Okay.
I know if I was going to
say you seem so involved. I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, no. I mean, if
somebody would have that.
I'm not going to be the guy that puts the fertilizer down because I'd probably burn out half the lawn. So I let them, fertilize and do all that kind of stuff. But I am the physical mower. I've got my 30-inch Toro deck that I'll be out there mulching leaves probably as we get off the air here.
Mad respect for that, because too many people just don't do that anymore. And I'm like, man, that's how I made my living as a kid. $2.50 at a time.
Well, that's my son. Our oldest son lives down in Myrtle Beach and owns his own landscape company. So
see, there's a little bit of difference between what your son's doing and what I was doing. He's got these zero turns in a trailer. I got a push mower with a gas can and a rope tied onto me, and a rake across my back, like I'm going up the mountain.
No, wait.
Whatever.
Hey, Dustin, Jim now is going to tell us he walked 7 miles to school, right?
Uphill both ways, exactly.
I was going to say every yard had to go cut was uphill every way. Chris, have a great weekend and good luck tomorrow.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Chris Denari, the great Chris Denari, joining us here. He is always a blast. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Traditions with us. We got more. Got to get back to basketball. We're going to hear from Mike Woodson and a couple players as well from last night's game. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or just
Who's this Joe Smith that's joining us?
He's Don Fisher's broadcast partner.
Oh, okay.
Oh, shit. What time's he on?
10:40.
Did you confirm that?
Well, you told me yesterday that's what it was.
Well, I understand that, but
I'll send him a follow-up. So
let me see if he even texted me back. Did he text me back? I think he did.
Go ahead and send him a message saying the link is in his email for 10:40. Because I don't have his number, you do.
Give me your number and I'll call. I won't sing the rest of that song.
You know what? I bet he's thinking phone.
He's done 2 of these with video before.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, we definitely talked some IU basketball with Joe Smith.
Yeah, you said you just sent him a text?
I did.
Perfect.
You can handle that one.
Joe.
You take
the one thing I do remember about him is sometimes when you send him the reminder, he just joins right then and there. So we may get him here in about 5 minutes, but we'll see.
What's supposed to be up next? Yeah, well, he can join whenever he wants.
Say we're fine. So if he joins early, he joins early.
Let's see if Josh can join tomorrow.
Hoover.
Hoover.
Have they finished up? Are they in state, I guess, right now?
Oh, man.
They are in the playoffs. He plays Temple tomorrow night. Do you know who is from Temple, Texas?
I don't.
No.
You do? Dustin, you said you do? Oh,
I said I don't.
Jamie Foxx.
Is he really?
Matter of fact, he probably played football for the team that Josh is playing for.
How'd you learn that, by the way? Or know that?
I saw it somewhere and it just stuck into my head because of having been through Temple, Texas, when I was rodeoing all these little towns and stuff. Stupid stuff sticks in my head that
Rodeo.
It's crazy.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Thursday on Indiana Sports Beat Radio and most places around that can hear us. Talked about high school football is in the tournament. Same with a lot of IU recruits. Josh Hoover's in round 2 down in Texas, taking on Temple tomorrow night. Home of, or it's where Jamie Foxx is from. Little bit of useless trivia for you. Joe Smith is going to join us a little later. Looking forward to talking. He had one of the best seats in the house last night for that game, Indiana and St. John's. Looking forward to talking about that with him. But that was a game Indiana played very well in first half. Had some letdowns a little bit in the second half, but also, as you see some of the comments from the Andy Moore Honda hotline, there were a few calls that they weren't getting the calls in the second half, Dustin. A lot of ticky-tack calls.
Sure.
You don't think?
I mean, here's the thing. If you play well enough, the officials don't matter. I've come to that conclusion.
True.
The Big Ten officials have been so bad recently with football and basketball, you have to almost take them out of the equation. I'm not saying that fans don't have a point in some of the ticky-tack stuff, but I mean, I didn't think it was so egregious that it had an impact on the game, because I thought it was being called pretty evenly throughout the course of the contest.
And of course, there's been talk about Trey Galloway, his injury, what that potentially is going to end up being, a potential wrist injury. That would just be a setback for him. And also, he's gotten minutes. So anybody that's gotten minutes, but here's the thing. Last night I was watching. Let me pull that back up so I can. Yeah. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 guys, basically. The bulk of the minutes for Indiana. There were 11 that played in total, but the bulk of the minutes went to 7 guys. And the next one in line is Jordan Geronimo. So
with 8.
Well, yeah. And so there's an 8-man rotation. Now, I think that's going to be your 8-man rotation right there. You're going to get contributions maybe from Lander if he can continue to play well like he did last night, coming in 6 minutes and again scoring 2 points. But we'll have to see. I thought he would go a little deeper, and I know he would like to go a little bit deeper, but Durr is not quite there yet. That's one that will probably pick up as he continues to, recover and get better. But other than that, I think that's a rotation you're going to see a lot of, especially if you take Galloway out of the picture. There you go. There are your guys that you're going to see the bulk of the minutes. Xavier Johnson, Miller Kopp, Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, and Parker Stewart. Those are your 5 starters. Tamar Bates played 27 minutes off the bench.
Right.
And that's what I think Woody wants. He, as opposed to Miller Kopp, who played, or 23 or whatever, he wants two. It's basically like having a second starter.
Yeah,
is what it is. You want 7 guys that can start and rotate those other 2 starters in. Mm-hmm. And so you always have that level of talent on the floor.
Well, I think what Indiana probably needs these next, couple games, they should have an opportunity. We'll see. But I think what they need is also the opportunity to have more of those games look like the Northern Illinois game, where you have a comfortable lead, and to try to get these guys more minutes, like get guys like Christian Lander, get him 10 to 12 minutes in one of those games, get them more acclimated to being on the floor. Now, maybe that's not a permanent rotation, but at the same time, that might get, what situations is he going to be good for you in? Because I think the difference, between Mike Woodson and Archie Miller, and there are plenty, but I think that you're going to see some situational basketball here. What does Jordan Geronimo give us in certain situations that maybe Tamar Bates doesn't? Or what does Christian Lander give us that maybe somebody else doesn't? So I think it's going to be a fluctuation process, but I think in these 2 games against
you saw
Eastern,
that last night. You saw that last night when they rotated
right.
Jordan Geronimo in at the end of the game defensively.
Right.
So that's exactly what you saw last night.
But I think he's had to do tighten up that rotation in 2 of these 3 games, obviously, because you had Eastern Michigan make a surge at the end of the game. You had St. John's make a surge in the second half. So you weren't able to get some of the – you probably would have liked to get them up around the 10 to 12 minute mark would be my guess. I don't know. But I just think that it's part of a learning process, and I think you're going to see a little bit more of these guys who didn't get much action in 2 of the first 3 games. You probably will see a little bit more from them here over the next 3+ games or so.
Ironically, looking over at St. John's, other than Wheeler, who had 9 minutes, he's the only one out of, I think, 10 players that didn't have double-digit minutes.
Wow.
Now, of course, that's a team that's pressing and probably
right.
exerting a little more energy. But, man, yeah, that's you've got your entire rotation playing double-digit minutes, man.
40 minutes of hell.
but the thing is, 1, 2, 3 guys didn't score. 1 guy gets a bucket. The bulk of your points came from, Champagne and Smith had 16 and Alexander had 10. But so, I'm not worried about talking about them. But going forward for Indiana, they've got to hit their shots. Damn, you've got to hit open shots. This game should not have been tight. Hitting a few free throws would have changed that. Yeah. And there were just a couple of open shots that if they went down at the right time, I think it really put a dagger in St. John's. Mm-hmm. But that shot got missed, and it was just enough. It left just enough air in St. John's and just enough life, and they keep coming. They've just got to be able to, I hate to use the word put your foot on the throat, but you've got to be able to cut that off, man. You've got to be able to boom and stop it. And Indiana has not done that yet, but that's okay. Hopefully that's a learning process through confidence, and winning breeds confidence in a lot of forms.
Well, I was just going to say, I do think that what is important is, even though it's almost, to me, almost a blessing in disguise. You'd like to see them make those shots, but at the same time, you were able to see them win 2 of these games where teams made surges. And I know it's not the best competition that they're going to face, but you were able to see them make enough plays, even though they could have made more, make enough plays to get away with a couple of wins in those tight ball games. And so many times we've seen this team not make those plays, in previous seasons, miss those shots. I think that as they get more confidence and get more comfortable playing in front of a packed crowd, I still think that's an adjustment period. I still think the pressure of making a free throw in front of 17, 18,000 is different than in front of 0. I'm just saying, we're 3 games in. Let's not judge too harshly now.
Man,
that's what I'm saying.
The free throw thing is just it gnaws at me. It's all right here, man. It is right here.
But they got to build that confidence, though. That's what I'm saying. It's not from a talent. It's not. Well, how do you expect them to do it then? It's going to magically happen.
Why are other teams not are able to do it?
This team hasn't been good at the foul line or the 3-point line for years. You expect it to change overnight?
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Judge this team.
But you've got players that weren't even on this team.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
Xavier Johnson was 1 for 3. And Tamar Bates was 0 for 2. So there's 1 for 5 at the free throw line right there. And those guys weren't on this team last year. It's right here, man. You got to knock those down. Those ones that Rob Finney missed, I remember that when I was like, damn, dude, you got to knock those down. Your guards, they've got to knock free throws down. Tamar's got to knock those down. Even though it's two free throws and it doesn't look big, it's big. It's also when they come.
Right.
You've got to knock those shots down. That takes the air out of the chest of these other teams. And that's what you have to do. Instead of saying putting your foot on the throat, I'd say put your foot on their chest. They can't breathe. So that's what I think. But hey, let's take a quick break. Our good friend Joe Smith is going to join us next. Part of the IU broadcast team. We'll get back to it. More Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. If you're down in southern Indiana, make sure you give them a stop. Pizza, burgers, beer. We're back with more and Joe Smith right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
What are you up to?
Hey, Joe Smith, how are you, sir?
Could have used a few more hours sleep.
Tell me about it, brother. I was thinking that very thing last night and again this morning.
They can jam those 9:17 tips. They can jam 7:30, 8 o'clock football games and ship them.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm tired. I asked somebody, I was like, please tell me we don't have any more 9 o'clock home games, man.
Can you hear me okay? I'm in my booth at the radio station.
You sound like a beautiful magic.
Yes, sir. Hey, Joe, are you able to move your phone's camera to where we can see your face?
Oh, how's that?
There we go. If you're able to prop that up or whatever is most comfortable for you.
Look at him. There's the beautiful Joe
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
That happens to me all the time.
Trying to find
all
something
the
to
time.
prop the phone up with.
You're good. We
You're
got
good.
a little under 2 minutes. You got some time.
Okay.
Or turn it sideways.
It may not register.
Oh, it's not set for landscape or whatever. That's fine.
All right. There. Yes. Got to get my notes. Oh, let's see.
You may have to throw up a photo, Johnny boy.
We'll wait till we get started. See if we'll see.
Dustin Schutte, Joe Smith.
Hey, Dustin.
Justin.
Excuse me. Nice to meet you, Joe.
How you doing, son? Good seeing you.
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, a little tired, but a good tired. Lot to do today. Wow, busy Thursday.
Yeah, I got to get ready for football too. If you forget about that.
Yep. I got.
All right. Coming back from break.
Complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, and we're joined now by the great sounds of Joe Smith, part of the IU broadcast team. Joe Smith, how are you doing, sir?
He dropped out.
Well, he's doing wonderful.
Here we go. He's coming back.
Drop back in. But we'll wait till he gets back. There he is, the beautiful Joe Smith. How are you doing, sir?
How you doing, my friend? Could have used a few more hours of sleep, but a good tired this morning after last night, as you well know.
Yeah, a big win for Indiana. St. John's, their first test of the season. They have been putting up a lot of points on people, but Indiana, defensively in the first half, shut them down, kept them at bay, and had a nice little lead for up to 14 points. But they let them make a run there in the second half. But again, we're able to hold them off and win that game.
Yeah, I thought that the foundation was laid. You talk about the near 7-minute scoreless drought they went through. And again, that was a good, solid defense, Jim, that we're seeing from Indiana here through the first 3 games. And a lot of that had to do with Tamar Bates off the bench. He was electric with his 11 points all in the he had 9 of his 11 during a run that gave Indiana a 13-point lead. You talked about the 2 14-point leads that went by the boards. But that being said, that I'm telling you, this was a good resume builder for Indiana last night to beat a club the caliber of St. John's. And you knew sooner or later the way that Champagny was shooting the basketball that they were going to get back in the game, and they did. But that being said, despite the 2 ties at 56 and 65, Indiana never, ever surrendered the lead. And I tell you what, that's the difference between what we're seeing early season now and, last year. But that's in the rearview mirror. We're focusing on the now.
Yeah, and there's not a lot you can complain about offensively for Indiana. The free throws would be one thing. Because they ended up shooting 33% from behind the arc and over 50% from 2-point. So you just can't complain about that. The free throws is kind of a different story when you've got guys like Tamar Bates going 0 for 2, Finnessy 0 for 2, Xavier Johnson 1 for 3. Those guards, those guys, they got to knock those shots down. Trace a little bit too, but that's about the only thing because everything else was pretty damn good.
You talk about, the free throw shooting's got to get better. When Indiana won Big Ten titles and we go back to the Bob Knight era, I can think of seasons where Indiana shot 73, 74, 75% on the year from the free throw line that won ball games. Somewhere along the line, 52% ain't going to get it. 9 misses. You talked about the 3-point shooting, but those shots are going to fall. Tamar Bates, he comes in and starts firing. He was only 1 of 4. I liked what I saw last night of Miller Kopp getting his 2 threes and getting in double figures. He played a pretty good 22 minutes, but boy, you tip your cap, Jim. As I say, I think the biggest basket of the ball game was a little running lay-in that Race had with 25 seconds to play after they cut it to 1. And, I thought that was awfully big, and he played well along with TJD down the stretch. I think, 33 points and 15 rebounds between those two. But that was a key basket. And then Xavier hit the 1 of 2 from the line to win it there in the last few seconds.
Yeah, Race Thompson has just been a yeoman already. I mean, he just comes to play every game, and he's going to get his, but he's just always around the ball, whether it's a tip or rebound, whatever, drawing a foul. He just seems to be so active.
Well, he was last night, and one thing that was heartening was he was 6 for 9 from the field. Now, that being said, I was looking up in the book, Trace last night tied his career high in assists with 4, but Race did a lot of other things. He had 2 assists, but he had 4 steals, but his career high was 7, so he was a little far from that, but he was around the ball, and, those two really had big baskets down the stretch. So, when it was go-to time, it was time to go to your go-to guys. And Indiana went to both of them down the stretch and held off a very good St. John's ball club.
Joe, one of the things I've been impressed with this Indiana team is the improvement on defense. I know we're only 3 games in, but from last season, and one thing I thought maybe was kind of a microcosm of how maybe well this team is, the chemistry is going and the way they're kind of gelling together right now is when Trey Galloway went down with that scary injury, took that fall in that game, all 4 of his teammates were gathered around making sure he was okay. Just being there for him. Like, to me, that's a sign of a team that enjoys each other, and they got good chemistry. And I know at times over the past 2-3 seasons, I've not always felt that way about this Indiana team. Do you get that same sense that they enjoy playing with each other, that the chemistry is there?
Oh, no question about it. And you look at just the change in the countenance on his face, how he goes about doing things, and that's Rob Finney. He kind of got dinged last night, didn't play much. He had a thigh bruise, I believe Mike was telling us after the ball game. But you can just tell that he is enjoying playing, and that has a lot to do with the infusion of, Xavier Johnson. You see it in the face and the way that Christian Lander goes about doing things. We talk about big baskets. When they finally tied it for the first time just inside 9 minutes last night at 56 after Jordan Geronimo hit that 3, then Lander gets active and hit a big basket. So they went from that was a little 5-0 run that was key as well. And Geronimo, we see that in him. What a great 8 minutes last night. The guy scores in a 3-minute period, all 7 of his points, or 5 of his 7 points during that little run. And those were some big shots. But boy, they're getting after it, aren't they? Defensively, St. John's now, we're not going to run into many opponent individual players. I hope anyway, we won't any better than Julian Champagny last night. He got 22 in the second half, and he is dynamite shooting the basketball.
Yeah, man, he was 50% from behind the arc, 6 of 12. That's big time. 12 of 22 overall. So he's pretty efficient along the way.
Oh, yeah, Dustin. I mean, he's going to be a heck of a ball player, and Steph Smith and Alexander. They got a nice ball club. I asked John Manko, ran into John, a longtime broadcaster. He and Fish worked at WIRE back in the early 70s. A good friend of ours. He's in his 15th year doing Red Storm games, and he was telling us that they were picked to finish 4th in the Big East. Now, the Big East quite strong, but they may surprise more than a few people with the lineup that they have, and they're well coached.
And we've talked about this with football, with basketball and everything, Joe. Just, talk about the difference a year makes in terms of last year. We didn't have anybody in the arena, in Assembly Hall. And last night, I mean, you could feel the energy just coming through the TV screen. I mean, it was palpable, the energy that was there in those tight ball games. I mean, it was fun to see one of the best venues in college basketball and all of sports rocking again.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, that was one of the toughest things doing we did all of the road games except for a few stops last year from a studio on rural, Jake Robinson's studio, Midwest Broadcasting. And that was tough to do, where the 3 of us just broadcast off of the monitor. Great to see the fans. But I tell you what, too, with that atmosphere and with that extra add to everything that's going on, we don't win this game. We don't maybe win Eastern Michigan last year in the same situation. So new infusion of players, the attitude, just the confident feel that they have shown us here. Indiana played a tight ball game, had 16 turnovers in the contest, a few too many in the second half, but got away with it. But still, it's great to see the extra charge in the stands. And, hey, it was a big key last night. They were rocking and rolling.
Joe, and the next 3 more games at home for Indiana. That helps. 3 more games at home coming up before they have to travel to Syracuse for their next test, and that will be unquestionably the biggest test thus far of the early season. They could be 6-0 when they arrive at the Carrier Dome. Should be.
Well, that is a big ball. Is that what is that? That's the Big Ten ACC Challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we know one
Tuesday.
thing, aren't we? We know 2 things. Jim Boeheim, we know 2-3 zone, and we'll throw in the Carrier Dome where it's been a graveyard for Indiana in past years. So, but anyway, I'd like to be in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still a ways off.
That's not till the 30th, and Indiana has 3 games, like I said, home games to continue to work on the things that they're doing. Their next up is Louisiana Lafayette this Sunday, and
Raging Cajuns
for a Sunday. The Raging Cajuns from Louisiana Lafayette, and they come back again on Tuesday to play Jackson State, and then you've got a week, well, not a week, but till that Saturday, and then you take on Marshall. It gives Indiana time to work out their shooting.
Yeah, it's wearing out a couple of 70+ broadcasters. I tell you, when we face this every November, and boy, we're in the midst of it now. I just, being senile as I'm getting, I just realized we did have a game Sunday. I'm usually thinking, resting, watching the Colts or something like that, and boom. What do we have?
No day off this week.
What do we have? We got a 7:30 game on a Sunday night after a football game. Oh, well.
Somebody told me that yesterday. That was the starting time. I just dropped my head. I'm like, are you kidding me? But we got a big soccer match, guys. We wish Todd. He doesn't even know who he plays yet. Louisville or Bowling Green, they play tonight at 6:30, but the game's at noon, and the second round of the NCAA soccer tournament. So it's going to be another busy weekend. Football, basketball, soccer. The women play out in Connecticut at Quinnipiac. And so another busy weekend, man. And then, of course, Trey Galloway has a broken wrist, so he's going to miss some time, according to his mom, I think, a post that she made. So that coming from the family, I'm going to assume that is accurate. So there's that, unfortunately. But you talk about the soccer game. Tim hit us up with the big info here on the Andy Mohonda hotline. How about former Hoosier soccer star John Michael Hayden? He's now the head coach at Louisville. So he could be coming to Bloomington with the Cardinals to play Indiana in this tournament.
Wow. That's going to be interesting.
There's a bit of info
for
you.
Louisville's had remember the name. Louisville's got a nice team. Can't take anybody for granted. So Indiana, a little disappointing. I tell you, the team that is going to surprise a lot of people is Penn State. I mean, they're well put together. Just watching them play, even going back to last year when Indiana was fortunate enough to beat them on PKs in the Big Ten tournament. They may go a ways in the NCAA tournament. I think they went to the Elite Eight last year, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to watch.
At least you don't have high school football to do tonight. You can rest, or Friday night you can rest up and get ready for the Raging Cajuns on Sunday. After the football game.
Yeah, well,
I forgot we have a football game Saturday, Minnesota. I forgot about that. There's too much going on, Joe.
We can't forget it. We can't forget about it. This one's for the seniors, and it's just get right time. We got to get these next two. That will savor, or at least make the winter not as cold, and we're capable.
Absolutely.
We'll just have to go play. We'll have to go play. The thing that stuck in my mind, Rutgers gets beat at home 52-3 by Wisconsin. They come to our place, beat us 38-3. Why can't we, off a humbling loss, put it to Minnesota on Seniors Day? Why not? Well, we are. We are.
Tom Allen always has his phrases. That should be the next one. Why not? Why not us? There you go. You just gave it to him. All right. Well, Joe Smith, I can't thank you enough, brother. You are the smooth talker.
All right, brother.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and we'll see you guys. Well, I see you both, down the trail here. We'll see a lot of each other with all that's going on.
I'll see you on Sunday for sure.
Yep.
If not before.
So, all right. Well, have a great weekend, guys. Go Hoosiers.
You as well. Joe Smith joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Sunday game. God dang it. Sunday at 7:30. It's nice if you're sitting at home in a chair watching it. But,
you guys are just a bunch of whiners.
Do you know what time I got home last night? Those 9 o'clock games. Oh, geez.
I'm with you on that. I think 8 should be the latest they start. 8 p.m.
Say, Dustin, how about all the times you complain about the plethora of Big Ten games and the horrible scheduling like that?
I mean, I do piss and moan about that an awful lot, so I can't point the finger here.
Speaking of which,
Friday night games.
This weekend in Big Ten football, we haven't even talked about that, man.
Well, why would we?
We've got it. Well, because we have to, because we do, because you're the authority. Let's see. Rutgers is at Penn State. Purdue's at Northwestern. Those Penn State should beat the crap out. Oh, no. Does Rutgers have a resurgence after winning at Indiana? No. I think they get crushed. Does Purdue go to Northwestern and get a win? I don't see how you don't beat Northwestern.
They go to Wrigley Field.
Oh, wow.
Wrigley. Yeah.
Very cool. See, then that's cool. That is cool.
The thing is,
that is fun.
The thing is going to be can Purdue run on Northwestern's non-existent run defense? I want to see, the game I want to see? I want to see Northwestern's horribly bad rush defense against Indiana's horribly bad rush offense. We won't see it, but I would like to.
Well, if in any other situation, I will take the defense all the time.
The movable force versus the stoppable object.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I don't know why, but I will. I just will. This is after the Rutgers game. I don't know that Indiana can muster the offense to do anything. They don't have a running game. They don't have a passing game. Defense looked really tired, or I'm trying to be kind in that game.
Let me
they were
in
a lot of bad positions at the same time. They were constantly put in bad positions by the offense.
Here's what I'm going to say about that game is that there were 2 teams at the stadium and only one showed up to play.
You got that right. Well, and I will agree with you, because as I was sitting in the press box watching Rutgers with every play, exuberance. They were fired up. They were playing with heart and jumping up and down like a team that wanted to win a game, that desperately needed to win a game. And Indiana was playing like a team that was just beaten down, that had played 5 teams that were ranked in the top 5, and they were actually in some of those games and probably shouldn't have been, because they didn't have what they needed to win, but yet they still were. They still were in the Cincinnati game. They still were in the Michigan State game. And it's psychologically, it beats you down. It's hard to beat your head against the wall and then go out on Saturday morning and knowing you're going to beat your head against the wall.
And it's got to be tough, especially the defense has played pretty well for most of the year. It has to be painful to know that your offense isn't going to do squat. Like if you take away, I did the math on this, Jim. If you take away the Maryland game, they're averaging 6 points per game in Big Ten play.
That's
not even a touchdown and an extra point. So even with the Maryland game, it's like 10.5 points per game. It's
all right.
Comically bad how bad the offense is.
So Indiana hosts Minnesota.
Minnesota is a 7-point favorite. Who wins that game?
Minnesota.
Yeah, can't disagree with you. But we'll have Jeffrey the Greek on tomorrow. We'll talk more about that. Make sure you give Dustin a follow at Saturday Tradition at Schutte CFB, and give myself one as well, please, if you don't have it already, at Jim Coyle ISB. Hey, if you don't follow us on YouTube, please sign up there, so it makes a big difference for us. We appreciate it greatly. But a great thanks to Joe Smith, smooth talking member of the IU broadcasting team and here at WGCL in Bloomington. Also to Matt Taylor from the Colts, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and of course, the great Chris Denari, voice of the Indiana Pacers. Another great day, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you. Thanks a lot to Dustin. Thanks a lot to John, the producer. But most importantly, thanks a lot to you guys. Without you all, we have no reason to be here. Back tomorrow to do it all again. We're going to lots of basketball on tap. We'll see what we can get rounded up with that. And that's about it. We'll talk about Jeffrey the Greek on tomorrow. So we'll be doing some picks. Dang it. I barely lost that stinking parlay last night. It's going to bother me all day. But it's been another fun one. I hope you guys go out and have yourselves a great Thursday. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.